She banged on my cabin door like it was her property and shouted, "You don't belong here! Pack your things and leave right now!" I stood there silent for a second because I knew she wasn't just bluffing. Then she pulled out her phone, dialed 911 in front of me, and screamed into the speaker, "We've got a trespasser! He's refusing to leave private HOA land." My heart pounded, not because I was scared of her call, but because I knew exactly how this was going to play out. When the operator asked her for details, she glanced back at me with that smug little smirk and said, "Send deputies. He's squatting in a lakeside cabin he doesn't own." She thought she had me cornered. She thought I was just another helpless outsider who stumbled into her territory. But this wasn't her territory. Not even close. I calmly leaned against the doorframe and said, "Karen, you might want to hang up that call before you embarrass yourself in front of the entire county." She laughed in my face. "Embarrass myself? Sweetheart, I run this neighborhood. You're about to be dragged out in handcuffs." She had no idea. What she didn't know was that this little lakeside cabin she was trying to kick me out of wasn't just mine. It sat right in the middle of land I had inherited. And that land didn't stop at the waterline. It stretched so wide across the map that even the HOA board she bragged about was technically paying property taxes to me. But I kept my mouth shut for the moment, because part of me wanted to see how far she would push this circus. And the way she smiled while shouting at the 911 operator told me she was about to push it too far. "Get the sheriff here," she yelled into the phone, "and tell him to bring backup. This man thinks he's above the law," I whispered under my breath, just loud enough for her to hear. "Karen, you're about to find out who really is above the law in this county." Within 15 minutes, the sound of sirens cut through the quiet lakeside air. Karen folded her arms like she had already won the battle, grinning as two sheriff's cruisers pulled up the gravel road. She marched toward them, waving her arms. "Officers, over here! This is the trespasser I told you about." She pointed at me like I was a criminal caught red-handed. The deputies stepped out slowly, their hands resting near their belts. One of them asked, "Sir, can we see some ID? This lady claims you're on private HOA property without permission." Karen interrupted before I could speak, shoving herself in front of them. "Don't waste time with his lies. Arrest him now. He's been squatting here for weeks." I smiled calmly and pulled my wallet from my back pocket. "Deputy, before you put me in cuffs, maybe you should take a look at this." I handed over a folded packet of papers I always kept close. It wasn't just my ID. It was the deed, the official ownership documents. The deputy opened it, and his eyes flicked across the first page. His brows lifted. He flipped to the second page, and then the third. Karen leaned forward, impatient. "What is that? Some fake printout from the internet? He's stalling! He's dangerous. Get him out!" The deputy looked up at her, then back at me, then at the papers again. He let out a short breath. "Ma'am, do you have any idea whose land this is?" Karen scoffed. "Yes, it belongs to the HOA, and I'm on the board. So technically, it's mine to decide." That's when the deputy closed the folder and turned it around for her to see. "This isn't HOA land, ma'am. This cabin, this lake, this entire stretch of property belongs to him." Her smile cracked. "That's impossible." "You're lying." "He's lying." "Show me again." She reached for the papers, but the deputy pulled them back. I finally spoke, steady and slow. "Karen, you didn't just call 911 on a neighbor. You called 911 on the actual landowner. And here's the part that's going to sting. Your little HOA fees? They come straight into my county account." Karen froze, her face draining of color as the deputies turned their attention fully toward her. One of them muttered under his breath, "Well, this just got interesting." Karen's shock lasted only a moment before she snapped back with venom. "No, this is fraud! He's scamming you all, don't you see?" She jabbed her finger at me like she was stabbing the air. "He forged those papers. I'll prove it!" And before anyone could stop her, she yanked the deed right out of the deputy's hands and tore the first page in half. The deputy shouted, "Ma'am, that's official property documents." But she didn't care. She shredded another page and threw the pieces into the lake, laughing hysterically. "Now what? No papers, no proof. He's finished." I didn't even flinch. I just pulled my phone from my pocket and tapped the screen. A live feed popped up, my security cameras hidden all around the property. Every corner of the cabin, every path leading down to the water, Even the mailbox Karen had been stuffing fake HOA notices into, all captured in crystal-clear footage, and every file was automatically backed up to the county clerk's office. I tilted the phone toward the deputies. You really think I'd walk around with the only copy of those papers? She just destroyed nothing more than duplicates. The deputy who had first read the deed stepped closer to Karen, his tone colder now. Ma'am, you just tampered with legal property records in front of law enforcement. Her face twisted. No, this isn't how it's supposed to go. You're supposed to arrest him, not me. She looked around like she could still find a lifeline. Then she did something that made my stomach drop. Karen reached into her bag and pulled out a laminated badge, holding it high. You don't understand, I am law enforcement. HOA security has full authority here. The second deputy actually laughed out loud. That's not law enforcement, that's impersonation. Karen's hand trembled, but her voice rose in defiance. I own this place. You hear me? I own it. I stepped forward, my voice low but sharp enough to cut through her hysteria. Karen, you don't even realize it yet. You're standing in the middle of a county you claim to run. And the truth is, you've been trespassing on my land the entire time. The deputies exchanged a look, and one of them reached for his cuffs. Karen stumbled back as the deputy stepped toward her with the cuffs. No, you can't do this to me, she screamed, her voice echoing off the lake. I run this neighborhood. Everyone listens to me. The deputy tightened his grip on her arm. Ma'am, you're under arrest for destruction of property, impersonating law enforcement, and filing a false police report. She kicked and shouted, but the more she fought, the tighter the cuffs clicked around her wrists. Her fake badge slipped from her hand and fell into the dirt, like a piece of cheap plastic. The neighbors had started gathering by now, curious about the flashing lights. Phones came out, cameras rolling. People whispered, Wait, is Karen getting arrested? Someone laughed under their breath. Finally. For years, she had terrorized the whole block with fake fines, bogus HOA rules and threats, and now in broad daylight. She was being marched to the back of a sheriff's cruiser. I didn't rub it in. I just stood there, calm, as the deputies handled her meltdown. One neighbor walked up to me, eyes wide. Is it true? You really own all this? I nodded. Every acre, every house built around this lake. My grandfather bought it when this was nothing but wilderness. The county line runs straight through here, and I've been paying taxes on it long before an HOA ever existed. A hush fell over the crowd. The same people Karen bullied every day were suddenly looking at me. Differently, not just as the guy in the cabin, but as the one person who had the power to put an end to her games once and for all. Karen thrashed in the back seat of the cruiser, screaming at me through the glass. You won't get away with this. I'll find a way back. But the door slammed shut, muffling her voice into nothing but a faint echo. The deputy who had read my papers shook my hand firmly. Sir, thank you for staying calm. Folks like her, they think rules are only for other people. You handled this better than most. I looked back at the cabin, the lake shimmering behind it, and then at the neighbors watching silently. I didn't fight for this country just to be told I couldn't live in my own home, I said. The words hung heavy in the air, and in that moment, with Karen gone and the truth out, there was peace. Real peace. Not just for me, but for everyone she'd tormented.